Hello, all. Welcome to Roadways. This is the series on tires, which we will start with. So, in tires, the most important point to start is the size of the tire. So, when you are given a pamphlet, you have the size of the tire mentioned in it, and if you are interested, then it's an important point to discuss. So, why tires matter? Because they help the vehicle carry the entire load. So if you see, the entire load of the vehicle is carried by four, what is called as a contact patch, like this, four patches, which is about the size of a palm, in which the entire load of the vehicle is being carried. So the first thing is to carry the weight. Second activity the tire does is to transmit the forces. Let it be acceleration, let it be braking. So all these forces are literally carried or transferred to the road using the tires. So the next thing is to change the direction. Once you activate the steering wheel, you turn, you navigate a corner, and you want it to hit the certain direction. Tires turn in the direction and provide you the stability to take the turn comfortably. If the tire is not proper, either you can end up hitting the curb or you can end up spinning. So tire has to withstand all the side forces, the basically the centrifugal force which is trying to constantly push the car out of the turn or out of the path. The tire has to withstand all these forces and provide an equivalent opposite force which can make the car stable. The last but not least is the comfort. The tire absorbs the shock as a rubber. Tire has a natural tendency to dampen the shock waves that are coming into the car, so it makes you more comfortable. A more important point to note is tire consumes 25% of fuel that you are recharging the vehicle with. So that's how tires are important. So now, where will you find the size of tire in a pamphlet? So, for example, if you are taking a Nexon, Tata Nexon, if you are considering to buy one, so you have the pamphlet of the technical specifications of the vehicle which you are purchasing. So you find all the specifications here, like from engine, what kind of fuel it goes, and how many cylinders of engine it has, how many cylinders it has basically, and how much power and torque it can produce. And if you come in this line, at last you will find the most important factor, that is the tire size. So the only way in which you can estimate the tire's performance through the pamphlet is through tire size and the rim size. So it's a specification about the tire. So you have a 195/60 or 16 mentioned here, and also a 185/70 or 15 mentioned here in the case of petrol. And in case of petrol and CNG, you have a 185/70 or 15, and it is written radial tubeless. So to start with, radial tubeless is what we have in common across the industry. We can discuss those topics in the upcoming sessions or the peaks of the tire series we have started with. So now to start with, we will go into the size of the tire, what it says. So what I've basically done is I have taken a tire, I have cut it into a cross section, and I have put it into a half. So now you see the tire is not just a black rubber, there are multiple layers going on into the tire, and we see only the top part, what is commonly called as a tread. So these are called tread, and it has a specific pattern. So we have a tread pattern. So the tread pattern's main role is to evade the water in case of rain driving or a wet road driving, and also to reduce noise, which is achieved by certain design in the tread pattern itself, or the voids you see or see in the tread. So then you have a cut through the tire, and what I have brought to you here is a slice. This is a 2D slice, basically spanning in X and Y. So it is a 2D slice or a cross section of a tire. So this is easy to comment on the size of the tire because we have removed all other aspects and we are only looking at the geometry part of the tire. And this is the rim on which the tire is mounted, and this is the tire itself, our hero for this series. And we have the valve through which air is sent into the tire. So these are the three major aspects you see in this picture. Now to go further deep dive, we have brought that down here, the same image, and here you can see basically we have a cross section of the tire. So this is called as a cross section as we have cut it in a segmented way here. So we are bringing it here. So this is how we arrived at this. So now whenever you see this image, it is a cross section or a cut section of the tire. That's how we call it. And it is mounted on a rim with the air flange or the valve to be precise. So now you can see various dimensions measured here from the tire. You have the rim diameter, you have the rim width, you have the section height, you have the section width, and you have the overall width of the tire. So we'll see what these means. So importantly, our subject revolves today around the size of the tire. For example, we have seen in the above brochure that the size of the tire was 195 60 R16. So that was one of the size that was mentioned here. So we will now break down what is 195, 60, R and 16 means. So this is how it is segmented. So 195 is basically the section width of the tire, which is mentioned here. So section width is nothing but the maximum point of the tire in this two direction, in the y direction or the x direction, sorry. And we have, if we measure this, then we can find out the section width. So this is one geometry of the tire. And the next part is 60, which is basically called as an aspect ratio of the tire. So this 60 is in percentage of section width. So in our case, the section width was 195, and we have the 60% of 195 as the section height. So section height is basically from the top here to the bottom of the heel part of the tire. So this is the top crown, we call this, and we have the heel of the tire where it settles into the rim. So this is called as section height. So in our case, this section height is going to be 60% of the section width. So that is how they have given us a hint into how much height you will see in the tire. So this will basically increase or decrease what you see here. You have this marking here. So whatever rubber you see here, this height depends on the section height, how much percentage of section width it is. So that is one aspect that has been mentioned here. And also we have the construction type, which is radial. As I said already, like we will be seeing this in detail in upcoming videos. So what is radial? What is bias belt construction in the tire? So it's a construction basically how the tire layers are arranged in the during the construction stage. So all the car tires mostly now in the market are radial construction because it's best for fuel economy and also ride comfort. And we have the odd man out here because it's a rim. Up to this, it was about tires. So we will have a question: what about the rim? So we have this 16-inch rim. So this is in mm, 195 is in millimeters, and this is in percentage. And here we have the 16 is inches. So 16 inches is the rim diameter. So you see this, the rim. So we have this as a 16-inch rim diameter. So this is what is mentioned as 195 60 R16 here. So you have a 16-inch rim and a 15-inch rim. and also a 15-inch rim again. So you know now 16-inch rim is going to look bigger. So your rim diameter is basically this. So if you have a higher diameter, which means you have a lesser rubber or section height, and you see more of metal, which looks good in the vehicle. And not only that, if your rim dia is going to be higher, then what you see inside this metal part is the disc brake. So that is how we apply the brakes. We have the caliper here and we apply brakes using this disc. So more higher the diameter of the rim, more higher the brake disc can be. So it means more braking efficiency. So not only aesthetics, but also with increase in the rim size or the rim diameter, we also improve safety. So that is why it is important aspect to look for. So now we will recap with advantages of why we have to see all this. So in our case, the width of the tire was 195 mm and the aspect ratio was 60 percentage, and also the rim diameter was 16 inches. So this was our case. So if we have two options, say I am going to give you a more wider tire, 205 mm, what will happen? So this will be mostly the question we have when we buy the vehicle. If we are given with options, then we have to know the pros and cons of each options, so as to take more informed decisions. So here, if we are given with a higher with wider tire, which means it offers more grip. So now if the representative of the car showroom says, I am going to give you a wider tire option, then it gives you more grip, better handling because you have more rubber on the ground now. So as I said, there is 4 contact patches in the vehicle, which helps us do all the maneuvers, all the turns, all the braking, all the acceleration we expect from the vehicle. And rolling resistance, which indirectly affects the fuel consumption, is also based on this factor of how much rubber we have put into the road. So these things are affected by the tire width. So now we have more grip, better handling, and also higher cornering stability. So as I was saying, during a turn, the expected turn should be achieved by the tire. If the width of the tire is lesser, you may not be so comfortable in taking the turn at high speeds. And also they have a negative side, they increase the rolling resistance, which I said here, the fuel consumption. Because you put more rubber on the road, then you have to overcome the rubber by spending some fuel. So that is how it works. It provides you stability, but it takes off another factor. It's a contradicting win-win situation we have here. So, and also more road noise because you have more rubber on the road, so you generate more noise from the tread impact. And we will see in future how the tire is responsible for road noise and how important it is, how considerable it is in the EV world. Because the engines have shut their mouth, now the tires are going to shout louder. So then we also see it as a more sporty and also more performance oriented cars will have wider tires because they are challenged in heavy speeds and more sharp corners. So if they have to produce more lateral force, which is one aspect we will also see in future, but then we need more wider tires that are put onto the vehicle. So now we know the inference is wider the tire, more grip, more sporty, but narrower. It is more efficient in fuel terms. So second aspect is the aspect ratio. So we have the 60% in our case of the section width. So what if our sales rep comes again and says, now I'm going to give you a 70% more section width, sorry, more section height. Then we see it is going to be more section width. Then if you're increasing the section width percentage or section height percentage, then you are going to see more more rubber on the sidewall, But we also have a case of reduced section width. If I am saying it can be 50 percentage of section width, then you have less rubber on the sidewall. So sidewall is basically what I showed you earlier in the vehicle. So if you see the black part, the rubber part, you see from the side. So this is called as a side wall of the tire. So this is a wall that is going to bridge. You can see it here. So it's like a wall which is carrying the crown or the tread part and also the heel. So this wall's height is what is set in terms of percentage of section width. So that we have now seen and you know better than before. So now we have a shorter sidewall, in this case, a 50% case. So if the customer representative of the vehicle showroom says it's going to be 50% of section width, then you have a very good steering response because you have removed some rubber and it creates more direct feeling with the road from the steering wheel because there is no much of a twist and turn that rubber makes before it takes a turn. So now you have improved the steering response and handling, but it gives you less cushioning, which means you have a stiffer ride. You don't have more rubber in this case. So typically, so if I take this as a road surface and you have the section height, so you have certain section height and now you have reduced the section height, which which basically if you are giving it a shock, it will take and transfer, and in case of more rubber it will try to dampen out, but in this case you don't have more rubber, so whatever you get on the road you feel it inside, so you have a stiffer ride and more sensitive tire to potholes. If you hit the potholes then you will feel more in case of a shorter sidewall. In case of a higher sidewall, like we have seen here in the 70% case, so we are going to be softer, so more comfortable, the opposite of this. This is just an opposite of this, and also we are going to be a less agile in terms of taking the turn or cornering. So lower the ratio, to summarize, lower the ratio will be sportier, firmer ride, higher the ratio will be comfort focused. Next important aspect is the rim diameter. So mostly you will hear this from the customer representative. He will say we have the options of 16-inch rim and also a 17-inch rim in this. As we also saw in the brochure we have here, it is going to be a 15-inch rim and also a 16-inch rim. So what happens if I go from 16-inch rim to 17-inch rim? We have already covered this aspect a bit. As I said, it's going to brake better because you have a room for larger disc brake, because disc brakes, more larger disc brake, more area we have in the case of the disc. So it's going to stop faster, or it's going to be a quicker stop than the smaller disc brake. So it is also going to look sportier because you have more metal on the side than the rubber. So if you have a less aspect ratio tire, say this is going to be my rubber part and you have the whole area to be a metal, which looks more sportier than which is currently here, I can say. So but we also saw the disadvantages of the low aspect ratio tires. Also the smaller wheels are going to be cheaper and also more comfortable to ride because smaller the wheels, which means we have to put rubber in the rest of the part. We have to put rubber in the rest of the part, which means more rubber you have in the sidewall, then it makes your ride more comfortable. And also it is good for daily driving because you need to have comfort in traffic, city traffics. So the inference will be bigger the wheels, it feels more sportier, it looks more sportier, and also it is going to be a good USP for a vehicle seller to have a higher rim diameter option to just attract the customers with aesthetics. So I hope this was a good summary of the tire size. We will surely meet in further videos with the other aspects of the tire, which I briefly touched upon here. And sure, we'll happily meet in the next video. Thank you.